Mr. Chairman, it is the November 17th, 2021 Hrpb meeting. We're back from our 5-minute recess and we are live on YouTube.
All right. So I assume that means that we will begin the conceptual review of 226 North K Street.
Mr. Chairman, it is the November 17th, 2021 Hrpb meeting. Juan, did you want to share the screen? Did you or Fatima want to share the screen, or do you want me to share the screen here?
We can share the screen.
Share the screen because she had all the information on it.
I can. I need access to share the screen.
I'm doing it right now. You should be good to go.
Okay, 1 second. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hello, this is Fatin. I work for Juan at Content Architects. So we've been working on this project. It's a multifamily structure on K Street. This is what we were proposing. At the moment, it's an empty lot. We're proposing 3 units, basically in a style, kind of a townhome kind of style, where they're next to each other. And then in the back, we have a unit that's going to be a one bedroom that's on the top, basically on the 2nd level, and it's 2 stories in total. We offered a private garden for each one of them and parking in the back. We worked with the staff to make sure that it's in accordance with the code in terms of front yard and in the back. This is some street images of what's in the neighborhood. This is what's on the neighboring lot, and then on the other side, and then this is the empty lot here in the bottom. This is what's across from it. So this is where the alleyway, this is what its faces on the alleyway, other townhomes that are existing over there. And these are just other street views. These are the floor plans. So like I said, the first floor shows the ground floor of each unit and the parking in the back. And then there's a 1-bedroom unit upstairs in the back for unit D. And then they're all 2 bedrooms units here.
One is a 1-bedroom, right?
And yes, the 1 bedroom on the top here. And these are the elevations that we were proposing. We wanted to go with the modern style, just like the client wanted, but also incorporate some colors that bring some livelihood to the neighborhood, and also bring some of the colors that we see around Lake Worth into a modern structure. We went through some iterations with the staff, the Hrpb staff, in terms of the facade. We had trouble incorporating some fenestrations from what they wanted. So we kind of played around with different facades and wanted to give you different options so you can have a feel of that, because we know that that's the most important elevation, really, facing the street and what you're going to see. These were the 3 options that we had given to them. This was the first one that we had presented, and they said that they wanted to see a little bit more livelihood. So we kind of incorporated some vegetation, some meshes, different types of meshes to give some barriers for the windows that are there, that are here and here. And this is another version as well.
I don't have a TV in my side of the road.
These are the options just as larger images so you can see them. So this would be the 2nd option. And then this is the 3rd option for the front facade. This is the side elevation.
I see that it's wedged.
So we're showing the one with the landscape and one without, just to show you how with the landscape it really gets covered up. But just so you have a feel, you can also see it without the landscape and then with the landscape. And then this is the view of the back facing the private gardens that the units have. And then this is the alleyway view. We're proposing this a metal mesh that creates like, privacy for the owners. And I believe the staff asked us for a sample of that mesh, which the owner does have at the moment, so he can also share that if necessary. And this is just some views. That's pretty much the end of the presentation. So.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, there's no public comment and we are on a conceptual review. So let's start with Mr. Pickett.
I know that we've reviewed other modern buildings in other neighborhoods or whatever, so that's not as big a concern for me, but I do, thinking about it, I have a little bit of an issue with it no part of the entry or anything like that faces the street. And I mean, I realize that it's a multi-unit.
Right.
So, but I'm just wondering if there's a way for the unit that's facing the street has some sort of presence of entry or something like that, so that it looks a little bit more like it's in the neighborhood as opposed to just this facade it's almost like it's turning its back on the street sort of thing.
I understand what you're saying. And when you look at a lot of these two-story town sites or the condo buildings on K and J and L and M and over there, they are that way. And you do see the side.
Mm-hmm.
You do see the side. And I think concept B with them breaking it up a little bit works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if having the front door on the end one facing the street doesn't make that unit prone to be everybody's.
Well, that's the other thing I was thinking, that everybody was like goes to that door and they're like, no, it's around the corner.
Is Bill unit? Yeah, is Dave here? Is it Dave? Yeah. Is Dave home?
So I understand that too. I don't
Dave's
know.
not here.
Mr. Martin.
How wide is this lot?
This is 50 feet.
50 feet.
Correct, Bob?
Yes,
And-
50.
And the minimum parking requirement is how many spaces?
So it depends on the bedroom size. I believe they have I think they've met their parking. They have 4 off-street and 1 on-street. Or
2 on street.
2 on street. Yes.
2 on the street that
Yes.
count for the building.
6.
And the
Yeah.
last space is like one behind the other.
We do allow for tandem parking, but that parking has to be assigned to a unit. So that would be, when it comes back as like a zoning condition of approval, if the tandem has to go to a unit, because obviously.
So only 3 of the units have assigned parking of the 4. The other one will use off
Right.
Street parking.
street parking. I like the art, I don't mind modern. I don't. And Lake Worth has different architecture. That's what I like about this town, is every house is different. And modern is part of what's happening now. So it reflects the history of the city. I don't mind modern, it's just the only issue I have with the project is the parking.
I did want to say, may I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to say one of the concepts for the front also was to keep a very sort of tropical modern look, bringing a lot of vegetation in and leaving it a little bit on the abstract side with a mid-century modern style for the front of it, leaving a lot of grass and kind of a bit of a green space, which would provide a relief for the street, much like the spaces that were there or some of them that are on the street. And that way, the side-loaded buildings, which have 10-foot ceilings, are quite comfortable. And it was something that would try to really fit in and bring more green space to the front while adding a modern touch to it. That was the idea with the building.
Okay. Off the record, let the record reflect that Judith Fox has joined the meeting tonight, so she will be voting. So.
I will just speak to the parking as far as the scope of what your approval is. So for this particular one, it is really a minor site plan approval with a COA. So minor site is a staff approval. And so if they meet the code as written, then the parking is okay. So this one does not rise to the purview of a board site plan approval. So really your scope is related to the certificate of appropriateness for
The architecture.
So you can make comments related to the site as far as like the site is not compatible in design for the historic district. It's not, you know, set back, or it has too much pavement, or it doesn't reflect the character, you know what I mean? Those types of things
Right.
can go. But really, this has to either meet the code or have a variance. And then if it has a variance, then it would come to you. And as of right now, they're not proposing a variance.
I'm fine with the architecture.
B or C.
I have a series of comments. Some of them are quite good, I think. Little item, move that oak tree in the front yard towards the street. It looks like it's much too close to the building. Next is a question to staff. Architectural features are permitted in setbacks. I know that we permit up to a 2-foot roof overhang. On the other hand, some of these other issues, well, the side, you're not encroaching on the side yard, but I guess it's just the front yard.
So any types of, if they encroach more than 2 feet, little decorative elements or components can extend out. But the wall, the setback is measured from the wall.
From the wall.
Yeah, so it's the 2 feet.
So the grill work or whatever they're proposing is legal as long as it's not more than 2 feet out.
It's at 2 feet.
There were some notches at the front corners in the plans, but I don't see them in the elevations. I don't know what those were about. Just a thought. In the plan, we have no say in the plan, but I applaud the use of the pocket doors, and I applaud the bike rack in the back. Good for you. And I applaud the outdoor corbu chairs on the balconies or on the patios. Let's see, I'm questioning, you've got windows in the space below the staircase. So I guess that's an open area right now.
In the back,
No, right by next to the front entrance of each unit, there is glass showing at below the staircase. Would be a perfect location for a bike rack or for a bike storage. There, yeah, that appears to be glass underneath the stair landing. Is that correct?
yes, at the moment it is glass, yes. We're trying to showcase the stair would be kind of like the centerpiece.
Okay.
That would not be seen from, that's going to be covered up pretty much with landscaping though, right?
Well, or with the grill work, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a problem with the dichotomy between, you like that word, between the north and south elevations. This is the south elevation. It's very, very vertical. The north elevation, on the other hand, becomes quite horizontal. Frankly, I like the north elevation better.
Okay.
And, you know, it would be nice if something similar to this north elevation were to wrap around the other elevations. I'm not as much a fan of this grill work as some of you are. Also, I am distressed a bit by the lack of windows in the street facade. Certainly those bathrooms on the second floor could get some sort of glazing. Yeah, the dichotomy between these elevations, they look like completely different buildings. In terms of the architecture, I walked around the neighborhood a bit this afternoon. I would look to the neighbors. Remember, in our approvals, we like to have buildings that fit in, that are consistent with their neighbors. All of your neighbors, all of them seem to have pitched roofs. Now, I'm not suggesting pitched roof here, but they all have pitched roofs. They all have vertical punched openings, generally of the sort of the 2-to-1 ratio. Your punched openings appear to be 3, 3.5, 4-to-1. And I don't see that it really picks up on the forms that your neighboring buildings have. And then my last item is architects generally cover their mistakes with ivy. At least that's what I heard when I was in school. So I think to specifically require that those growies on the front wall is covering up a lack of interest. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but I think in terms of what we look at, we should be looking at the facades without the growies. Those are my.
That would be option A then.
No,
Well, you can give us option A and put some
Windows, you mentioned the window.
put some ficus repens in there or whatever you want to put in. I just don't think that the facades, these front facades, have a lot to do with the rest of with the neighbors. Comments? Chip?
Yeah, I wanted, Fatih, can you go back to the street views of the neighboring properties? The one on the top right basically has windows and doors painted on the front of it. That door is not there. So the property that we're talking about is to the left of that. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Where the
Yeah,
tree-
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, that, of architectural significance, that was the other thing I wanted to look at, how many other properties had a form of parking, and that one utilizes double or triple parking in front, I can't tell. What would be to the left of the property? What building is that where the top left?
This one, yeah.
What is that, a single story
Single story.
It's a single story, yeah.
with just the windows in the front, does not have any front doorway?
Not that I can see in this view. I think it's on the side. If you see it, here.
it's a side entrance.
Yeah,
Right.
when it comes to the style of architecture, I noticed you've mentioned the pitched roofs all the way around, but when we're looking for the
Consistency.
well, I don't know, the consistency is what we need here, just to do more pitched roofs just for that reason. And of course, Mr. Compton's architectural style is generally flat roofs and ivy, since you mentioned that, because he's used that on several of the structures. I used to always worry that would be a maintenance issue, having the ivy on the inside of it. Apparently, the ones that have been done and that I see that he's done, they appear to be kept pretty well. I look at that as being a situation where if somebody puts a plant in there and it dies, that would be me, as the brown thumb that I am. The one thing I really liked about it was the cantilever over the parking in the back, as a way to increase some square footage and have that upstairs apartment.
Yeah.
Over there. So I really liked the parking idea in the back.
The plan layout is perfectly fine.
So without, is there any way, I understand what you're talking about, instead of having a blank facade, the property, if you go back to the depictions of the front over, no, the pictures right there. The one that bothers me in that row of houses is the one on the top right, which when that guy built it, many years ago, I was thinking, how the heck did the city allow that? Because those windows in the door that you see on the front, I'm not sure about the upstairs one, but I'm sure the ones at the bottom are painted on. Those are pictures of windows and doors on that particular structure, because it was just a very, maybe is top window also painted? So your point about not having a window or some glazing or something on the front is where this comes in. And finally, somebody at least painted something on it because it looks so bland. His does not look bland because there's the vertical structures in there. But maybe, Juan, do you see any way to put glazing on there in the front?
We could work around some of the glazing. One of the issues was that it was the building is side loaded, as people could see. And one of the things we tried to work with staff was instead of the glazing, it was all about sort of the holes, the amount of sort of, what would appear to be a window, which is some of the larger rectangular pieces in the front. But we can put some of the glazing in the front. That shouldn't be a problem. I think one of the things too is if you go back at some of the surrounding buildings, the one behind has a very kind of hodgepodge style, but that building does have a flat roof on it with some things that are stuck on it. It's obviously a different style, some very different styles. It seems like some type of Italian style with different type of this flat roof treatment and some things sticking out with some balconies. Not that we're doing that, but there are some samples of something close to that. But yeah, we could see some glazing in the front if you'd like to see some of that. That would also let light in. In terms of the parking also, I mean, the owner also really wanted to get parking out front because a lot of people have it, but we've tried to really work around that and work with staff to get it in the back and then just use the two on the front and provide that green space. That was a big deal.
I think that was well done. I have no problem at all with the plan layout. Incidentally, the houses on the backside are a different block and they're not seen at the same time as houses on K Street. Again, I'm not saying anything against a flat roof at all. It's just that, but there are other issues, there are other commonalities of the other properties on the street, and that is the vertical windows roughly twice as high as they are wide.
Right. I see that. And we could work around some of that. That shouldn't be a problem to work some of those pieces in the front. Also, in terms of the continuity, I do understand that one side is more vertical than the other side. And I think a lot of that had to do with the garden coming in, but we could try to work in some more vertical elements to bring it around, to give it a commonality to the south side, the north side to the south side. We'd have to get something on the facade, which would resemble and bring around some of those elements from the south facade. That's a fair comment. I don't have a problem bringing some of those things around.
Or you could go the other way around and bring some of the north side around to the
I think your
south side.
horizontal is better.
I prefer the horizontal,
Yeah, I thought that's what you
more
said.
horizontality.
Yeah, he's switched it around on you.
Yeah.
That facade, that's awesome.
Yeah, that facade reads very nicely.
Yeah. Okay.
Judith Fox, I'm sorry, we haven't heard from you yet. And Judith, we cannot hear you. We can't hear
Can
you.
you hear me? Hello?
No, we're talking to the other board member who's remotely participating.
There, finally, yeah. I don't really know enough to ask a question. I just would like to listen for a bit. I mean, are these one question I had, because there was an office downstairs, are these like combined office buildings?
No, this is just a modern home, 2-story. We've got 10-foot ceilings. There are 3 2-bedrooms and 1 1-bedroom.
The office is just a study, like an office for like the home office.
All right, well, that's what it kind of confused me. Thank you.
And can I ask one more question? One, doesn't the topography of that lot drop significantly from the street level to the alley?
Yeah.
That whole block does.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things with the glass and the privacy, that's why we put the screens up. And the screens would do a couple of things, not just for the privacy, that also help with the sun coming in quite a bit with the HVAC. We ran some load calcs, and they would really help quite a bit with the energy conservation as well.
Those are the screens that we're looking at right now, kind of offset from the windows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Dorenzo, comments?
I'm not saying anything. No, I'm good.
All right. Well, I think that's the extent of our comments. I do have a hard time with the screens. Most of your windows are on the north and south facades where sun control is not as necessary as on the east and west. So I think this facade that we're looking at, this north facade, has more going for it.
So the consensus is the horizontality of this is more, does everybody like that better
Yeah.
than
Yes.
the vertical?
We find it more appealing.
All right. Are there any more comments, or should we move on to the next project?
I just like to reiterate, I think this, what, building on what you're all saying, is that there should be more connectivity or interface with the street. Just, there's something missing there as far as having any connectivity to the street or whatever. And I think with some sort of glazing or something or other, it makes it a little bit more street presence than what's there now.
Yeah.
We had recently, a few, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we had the property that's on the corner of 6th Avenue North and J Street, I believe it is, that was really out of, modern
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
It had the 2 units on there.
Yeah, wonderful.
And it turned out extremely nice, and you don't really even, when you have a structure that actually deviates from the norm that's in there,
Mhm.
that structure actually kind of brings your, and that particular lot, when you go past that house, or
That's cool.
it is, you don't notice the other houses in the neighborhood, I'm sorry.
No.
That one looks really nice. And this one, I think, could have a similar
Potential.
effect in that, because of all the other houses are small cottagey looking, and then this one would kind of stand out with its modern design.
Mhm.
For some reason, that modern design does not look out of place over there
No.
to me.
Mhm.
So, this, to break up, and they do not have to stick with a historical, antique look for things, is to bring in some of this modern, artistic architecture is, I think, welcome. So
All right. Okay.
I look forward to, is this going to have to come back in front of the board?
Yes.
We're planning to bring it back in December. We have to finish the final zoning review, and this has been routed to the consultant for a COA review for this meeting.
Okay. All right. Then we will see the applicant in December.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Do we move on to 307 North L, perhaps? Is that the next on the agenda?
Yes, your other item was approved with the last configuration that you had.
Got it. Okay.
So.
Only this one could be so easy.
All right. Who will be making this presentation?
It'll be me. I just wanted to discuss this project.
Okay. And your name?
My name is Giorgio Antoniesi. I'm here on behalf of Sundream Development with Antoniesi Architecture. Last month, or the month prior, I brought forth this project that you see here on the screen at 307 North Pell Street. It consists of 4 single-family homes. Our idea here, I think, was really misunderstood the first go around. So that's why I want to bring it one more time here before submitting in December. To be honest, I really felt at the time kind of offended, but we took your comments to heart in this next go around. And the reason I think we were misunderstood is because I feel as the architect that we're trying to do something very nice for this street. However, I believe the way the public is viewing it is that we're trying to take advantage of this, lot in some way that maybe it shouldn't be. And in our eyes, what we're trying to do is really reinforce the historic fabric of Lake Worth by taking advantage of the 25-foot width lots and reinforcing that, because those lots, like we know, aren't being made anymore. If you look across the street from our property, you'll see other cottages that are built on 25-foot wide lots. And to us, how cool is it to reinforce that instead of doing the same thing that was done a block just south of us and adding these like Mediterranean townhouses that do front more cottages that are on 25-foot wide lots. And I think the public perhaps doesn't know that when they write in and perhaps complained about this project. However, I believe after I recovered my ego from the ground and I put my pride back together, we looked and we said, well, perhaps there are some comments, and we took your comments to heart, especially when it pertains to the plan and the floor plan of this unit. So this is what the project was presented as. The idea was to create 4 identical facades that were modern in our eyes, modern, however, perhaps not consistent enough for the guidelines of Lake Worth. However, our idea was to make a statement by creating 4 identical homes. And that was one of the main comments that was received. You cannot duplicate 4 houses on these lots. If we go to the second page, many comments were made in terms of the livability of these of this floor plan. People asked, how will you take the trash to the front? Is that really a usable outdoor space that you're using? Should you really have your livable space all the way to the rear of the property? And we did, take a step backwards and analyze this plan and said, well, if we are going to put the cars and the parking to the rear of the property, perhaps we should really be putting the recreational space to the front and really commit to the idea of the cottage, which is really, use the alley side as the service side and use the front as your most appealing side, your recreational side. Many of the cottages in Lake Worth would have some sort of sunroom or what would be a porch in other places, which have been closed in now, but they used to be these usable sort of porch-like spaces facing the street. So we kind of reinvented the plan. If we go to the next slide.
Oh, sorry.
And this is what it would look like before, and then we continue forward.
And one more.
Yep. More. So now we're kind of thinking the same idea. We still believe in the idea of the 4 homes on 25-foot wide. However, now we are separating the service space in the rear from a recreational space in the front. We're proposing 8-foot deep porch on the front of each one of these cottages. We have broken the volumes of each cottage we've created a hierarchy. We have a major middle volume with secondary volumes to the front and the rear. And ended up, at one point we're thinking 4, 5 different roof types. However, we've decided on 2 roof types and different column and window layouts. And we believe that this changing of the volumetrics of this project, really creating a floor plan that brings recreational and really faces more of the street and really defines the rear more as the service side, is really an improvement to this project. If we can continue to the next sheet. So here would be 4 models. So we're proposing a real wood porch. This is not like most of the projects that you see coming by that would probably propose a porch, but made out of concrete. You know, a lot of times I see around town being built. This would be a wood porch stained in a natural color with a stucco siding or siding on the house beyond. There's 2 models essentially, the three bays, 2 bays. The 2 bays a more contemporary take on it. The 3 bay is harping back to the more traditional facades that you would see in the wood vernacular architecture. And then we can continue on to the floor plan. So here you see the house is pushed more towards the rear. The master bedroom gets a lanai to the rear. There's the mudroom coming in from the parking in the backyard. You have a corridor which takes you to the living room. However, many times here in Lake Worth, you will go out on a walk or go ride your golf cart around town, and you will enter from the front or hang out in your front porch or receive guests from the front of your house. So the idea is that the front porch really begins to act as your major outdoor space where you could hang out and receive guests or even host your guests there. And here you see on the top drawing how the volumes are broken up, which really, if you were to look at a satellite image of Lake Worth, you would see that this mimics the volumes that the smaller cottages around town would have. The small volume that usually covers that sunroom that's towards the front, a higher, longer volume that is the main structure, and then the one that they added on at some point in the future to the rear, that which also tends to break the volume as well. And here's a few images of houses actually on the same side of the street.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
That would, let me just reiterate, we're trying to do something good here for the street. And I think pushing this or not helping this project move forward and perhaps seeing it in a negative manner, I think would be a lost opportunity for pushing and maybe one of the last few sets of 25-foot wide lots in this city. This could easily be a wall of 6 townhouses. It could be a 6-plex, similar to that blue building there. We're trying to do something that's good here, and I hope that that's what's getting across and not anything different. Thank you.
Okay, comments? Mr. DiRenzo.
You know, I go back to the last time you were here too, is these big garbage cans we have to hide. How much room is between the houses? How much space between these houses?
Between each house, you have
5 feet.
about, yeah, you're gonna have 5 feet.
I mean,
Let's say 3.
not for nothing. it's
3'6" times 2.
A lot of times on these
7 foot.
25-foot lots, they get cited by code because you're not allowed to see the can from the street. So even though they may have room in the back, you stick it between the houses, you're not gonna have room to walk around the darn thing.
Well, I have 3. I have 3 feet towards the front, that little offset that you see in the front volume there next to
Right.
the porch. We could potentially
fence
screen it
screen.
there. Yeah, we could
No, because you always-
and put it there.
Right, because when you look at the smaller homes in these blocks downtown, they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff to keep them from seeing them from the street. And you literally have the 5 feet. So it becomes, okay, the cities have, all the municipalities have the same size cans. They're huge. So I was just saying, you know, you got 4 houses, we got the green can, the black can. and the red, the blue and the yellow recycling bins, it just becomes a lot stuck between houses. And if you're multiplying it by 2, you've got, it's just,
Well, I'd love to find a solution.
yeah, I'm just saying that
Yeah, absolutely.
that's something that we run into a lot with the smaller lots. I like to, you know, everybody, I understand where you were trying to go when we hurt your ego, but that's cool. I like what you're doing with, and we all get our believe. But I like the second concept, breaking it up a little bit, looking more like the flavor of downtown.
What is this concept?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Fox, comments?
I guess the only comment, why do they all have to look the same?
Well, you know what's funny about working on a 25-foot lot and working in a more vernacular style, you can't, even if you look at the existing cottages that exist on these lots, if I showed you, 10 pictures of them, they would be very close to identical, but not identical. So I really think, some of the changes that you see here are way more exaggerated than you would find between some of the existing cottages already in the town. I think it's more about the importance here, and what we have to remember is that we're talking about 100 feet. This would typically house 2 houses in today's what our code would mandate today. On your typical 50-foot lot, you would have 2 houses within 100 feet, and that they are different, and that having houses that have similar shapes but have slightly different detailing is totally lake worth. And these will change over time. One person's going to move in and they're going to paint it however they like,
Reside it, whatever.
I mean, you got to expect changes to happen in the future. However, these are clearly different, detailed different.
Well, going back to your distance between the houses, that you say you have enough room to pull the garbage cans through, that's assuming there are no plantings on the side of the house?
Well, we can designate a spot for those garbage cans.
Yeah, they're gonna have to be in the front yard.
And I could, squeeze the front porch a little bit more, maybe go 16 inches on each side, give a little bit more room, have a gate.
Yeah.
I could try to even have, an exit from, one of the sides. But that's something that's surmountable for sure.
Get them, Bill.
Did we see a side view of the houses? I mean, as far as the windows, are you looking in each other's houses here?
We're proposing a wood fence, a wood shadow box fence between them.
Yeah.
Between each.
You can see it there on the Zoom picture.
So which leaves 2.5 feet.
Right.
That's right.
30 inches.
So you.
But I have 3
So
feet,
you
but I have
gotta
3
accommodate
feet,
the can in the front of the back.
but I have 3 feet.
Right.
In front from the porch, from the front volume.
Right, okay.
But I hope.
No, I'm not saying you change stuff for a garbage can. I'm just keeping it in mind.
Absolutely.
Look at them when you're driving up the street. They're monsters. And there's 2 of them for each house.
Now, last month, we talked about them as barracks. We all.
That's
love
the problem,
our
wasn't it?
lots. We all love our Cottages of Lake Worth book, of which I just bought 2 new copies because I keep giving them away. But this takes the worst aspect of the 25-foot lot, and that is the size, the square footage you're putting on here. If you remember, the average cottage back in 1925 was 800 square feet.
Less than that.
Half of the square footage you're putting here. So this is about the worst land usage that you can do, because you have those hugely inefficient side yards. There are some options. I think we all like the idea of the rhythm of the 25-foot lots as you go down the street. You do not have any side yard requirements, if I'm not mistaken. You could conceivably have a T-shaped house where the front is that width And then maybe 20 feet back, it comes lot line so that the houses are actually touching as you go back. You would then gain some land area in the back. And I'm not saying you need to do this, but it'd be one way to have the best of both worlds, have the cottages on the front, but actually have the efficiency of row houses basically on the back, as a thought. I have some other comments here. The version that you've done, I like modern architecture. I worked for 15 years for a company founded by Walter Gropius. So, you know, I love Bauhaus. I love modern architecture. I think this one that you're doing here is basically mocking us. You're suddenly putting in a picket fence, you know, and you're putting in, I think, 4/1 windows, as if to say, by doing that, you're going to make it all right. You can do a modern house. We don't need 4/1 windows. We don't need picket fences. I kind of liked your earlier fences that you had. But your front, you could be varying your fronts by 2 feet. Some of them are 2 feet forward, 2 feet back, just to get some variation. I admire the fact that you're at least playing with varying your roof lines, making them hip roof, cable roof, hip roof, cable roof. Give something to it. Your plan, again, that's none of our business because we don't, but your plan has the entire living dining kitchen area as an interior space, basically. Your earlier plan where the living dining kitchen at least had a yard, had a pool and so on, was something. You might try a half porch. You know, one of the adjacent houses that you showed had a half porch, 9 by 7 or something or other. Well, it still leaves you 9 feet, 10 feet for that whatever office space that you're talking about in the front. Varying colors, again, that's none of our business, but we assume that owners, these will be different owners, or is this?
Will be different owners.
It will be different owners will vary the colors themselves. You could recess the entrance. Did we talk last month about actually having a space for the trash cans right by that front gate, but hidden? I don't know if that would, is that illegal?
Just based on that, or if there's another property.
In the front setback, you need a 40, you can't have more than 42 inches or a 36-inch fence. So I don't think.
No, 48 inch in the front.
It's a 4 feet in the front.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in theory, you could put
You could put something in there, and honestly, like, it's probably better to put a pretty robust hedge. You know, you could get something there and then plant a hedge and kind of create a boundary. I just want to also note that the side setback minimum requirement is 3 feet. So I didn't catch that before. So you will have to have a 3 foot on both sides. Unless you have a variance. So even because there is, while it is 10% of the lot width, there is a minimum side setback of 3 feet, and it's a fire code issue.
I do have 3 feet, actually.
a,
Yeah, I do.
okay.
So just.
Now that I look at it.
It's a conceptual review, so it's just information.
Yeah, thank you.
So
So would you want to consider a half porch?
we can work with Giorgio on the trash issue.
Yeah, the trash.
Now, on the original one, you appeared to have no, the slab appeared to be right at grade. This one, you seem to be going up 2 or 3 steps.
In my opinion, if you're going in this direction, you have to raise it, or else you don't get the feeling of a porch. We discussed this with the owners. It's just, you can't fake it. You know, it doesn't look like a porch if it's not raised. So we'll have to do something
Okay.
with a grade to achieve that.
Yeah, because I think I saw you had two steps or something there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I find this version less interesting than the earlier one. You lose the usable backyard, you lose the possibility of pool, you lose the possibility of 2 parking spaces. And did I use the word mock? That the architecture seems to mock the HRPB, you know, as if we have to have something that's got picket fences and 401 windows. We're happy with modern.
Yeah. No. I've had multiple modern projects.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right across the street from your one or your
714 or 117 or Alora.
Laura. It'll be your Laura, yeah.
The
So we know you can do it. I don't think this is it.
Well, here's the issue we ran into. I'm not, because of, if you don't mind me answering to that.
Yeah.
One of the comments before was asking for a flat roof. Because, Art Deco architecture or modern architecture never really has a pitch roof. So one of the comments that we got prior to this was that we were essentially mixing styles. I find that in this particular configuration, having tall roofs really softens, the repetitive nature of the four houses. So when I looked at it as a flat roof structure, and I know we can do stuff with parapets and all that, but I just found that, for buildability purposes, if we're gonna then do a pitch roof, let's just commit to a more vernacular style. And it's nothing to do with, and also, to be honest, people sometimes like it better than modern. I think it softens the look.
And your neighbors have pitched roofs.
Correct. So, I mean, I put a picket fence because once you go in that direction, you got to do it. You got to go all the way. So I think they're going to be very charming and notable buildings. I think we're going to detail those porches really well. We're going to stain them so they're a natural wood, which to me is a more contemporary take on the vernacular wood style. We do have the horizontal porch railing, which also harps back to a more contemporary style of architecture.
If you're going to do horizontal on the porch railing, you might want to do horizontal on the.
We could look into that, but at the property line, suddenly you're meeting other properties next to you, and kind of changes the look.
I guess we haven't been able to convince you to get away from the 4 individual separated 25-foot lot houses. I suggested maybe a T shape. Your earlier ones had high enough pitches that go, raise your beam height by another 2 feet, and you could do a second floor on it. And I know you didn't want that. That came out last month.
We can, but I think your idea of maybe taking advantage of some of the side setback, how would that be possible? Or would it not be possible as single family? It would be then a townhouse.
Townhouse fee simple.
So, yeah, you would have to, it would be a different configuration, and you would need to replat based on the number of the townhome. So because the lot configuration is the platted lot configuration is 4 25-foot lots, I imagine you'd probably do townhomes, you probably want to do, depending on the density.
No, we'd keep 4.
We keep 4.
Yeah.
So if they were attached, it just becomes, with the attached, you would have to just replat. Because
How would you need to replat?
so
For why?
these are the platted lots of record. So these are the legal lots of record. If you're going to sell your townhomes fee simple, you have to create new lot lines that reflect the structure that's being built. So if it's a rental project, you can do a unity of title. You can combine the 4 lots. You might be able to do that as a condo, but if you want to sell the townhome simple, it's a plat process. It's a subdivision process.
Yeah, we would basically keep the townhouses within the limits of the existing platted lots. So we would have 4 townhouses within the limits of each platted lot. So we wouldn't cross over. So I guess the advantage that we're looking for is the ability to build, at least towards the back of the property, all the way to the property line.
Mhm.
And you don't have to answer that now, but we can look into that.
Yeah, so we look at the whole piece as a whole, and I think the problem is that, yeah, there's some zoning questions we have to look at. I mean, your setbacks would go up, it would be 10 feet, 10-foot setbacks. Project as a whole.
I think, but wouldn't that be a little bit, do you think this is a little more disingenuous than what I'm showing? Like, at least, I listen, this is interesting to me because I can maximize the width
Yeah.
and make a better plan. Like, absolutely. But I would feel, like I am sort of, being pastiche by them pretending this is like a cottage, right? Like having,
Well, as you drive down the street and you see these individual cottages, you generally can't see all the way to the backyard. There's a fence there anyway.
but it's not a phony that like this. This is a real cottage,
With an unusable
It is.
6 foot, unusable 6 feet between each house. So. And
At the same time,
Actually, 3 feet, because there's a fence going right down the middle.
yeah, 3 feet fence, 3 feet.
but you plant, you're not gonna generally use those to traverse front and rear. We know that because it's uncomfortable. However, you do get spaces that have windows on both sides and have greenery on both sides, and that's very appealing. If you have arekas planted on those windows, and you have large windows there, you're suddenly thinking about a very comfortable space where you see light coming from two walls, which perhaps would be harder as you start attaching them.
From that wall to the edge of this curved part of the dais, is that pretty close to 6 feet?
This is a 3-foot door likely. So this is how much you have.
42-inch door. I'm talking about this section of the
No,
dais.
it's bigger than, that's not quite 6 feet.
No,
I think not.
this is 3 feet.
From the light.
My wingspan is 6 feet.
My one is 6.
So
All right, stop comparing our spans.
that's about 6'4". This is close to 6 feet. That's the distance between each house.
Okay,
With the fence in the middle.
With the fence in the middle.
You're just looking at a fence,
I don't think you're looking at much, if anything, there's not that many windows in between.
you know? You got 3 feet to look at a fence.
It would have,
You would have planting there. And I mean, that's not really what we're discussing,
No.
right? I do take into account all these comments. I really do. And I really do take your comment on the plan, especially perhaps thinking about moving that living space forward. I'm sold on the idea of having the front porch. I've not only done new construction in this town, but I've done quite a few renovations. And when I have clients that move from Boca Raton to here, what they appreciate about the neighborhood is sitting in the front and meeting the neighbors that walk their dogs and sort of that sense of community we have here in Lake Worth. And that's why somebody would want to come here. And
Aaron,
sort of
can you
discuss
show
that.
the photos of some of the neighboring houses?
Sure.
There's one very nice neighboring house with half of the front is porch and half is, I don't know, kitchen or something like that.
I will say that these smaller lots are kind of a trend that is occurring in planning.
326 North K, the one on the top right. with-
Yeah, top right is one.
Is that a
That's
20?
actually in our design guidelines, I believe that porch or something similar.
A 33-foot lot.
Those
Is that a
those are tiny cottages though. They're like 900 square feet, 800 square feet.
Yeah, the interest in these smaller lots is because you get a townhome-like product, but you don't share a wall. So it kind of like what Georgia was saying is that it lives like a townhome, but you don't share a wall with your neighbor. So it
Right.
meets fire code, you're looking at greenery, you have windows and light on both sides of your, so
Yes, but if you build an 800 square foot new house, then it will mimic exactly what was there. But what we're proposing is much bigger. That's why they look like barracks. Correct me if I'm out of line. It seems to me, and I'm not an architect or anything, that if the issue is that we're trying to move away from this barrack look because of the massing and it doesn't really match the neighborhood. And it's almost like a tenement. They're on top of each other with the windows practically facing each other, where you have to close off one window for whatever fire. I heard last time there was fire issue between properties or something like that, and they have to close a wall.
That was an existing historic structure.
Okay.
that we were retaining, and it was set 1 foot from the property line.
From the property line.
Yeah.
But the point is, why can't we do it? Maybe it's expense, on the economic side, a 2-story, if you want to create a modern living with more square feet and retain a 25-foot lot, there has to be some give and take. In other words, there's got to be more greenery, more yard like the old cottages do. And if you want to add the modern square feet requirement, then you have to go up 2 stories. You have a 2-story apartment building. So that way you can shrink the house into a 2-story and you have more space and more ground, not only parking, but putting even a swimming pool or a front porch. I like the look that you brought now with the front porch, but it's either townhomes where you can put a 2-car garage in the back and not have a whole bunch of cars all over the place. And there's townhomes in the neighborhood, so it's not out of character. Or if you're going to stick to the 25-foot lots, and the city should be thinking about this, if that's the trend, and you're kind of warning us that that's the trend is when it comes to the board, we don't want to see warehouse tracks one next to each other like that take up the entire property. That's not how this town is. None of those old cottages are like that. None of them are. In fact, they're so tiny, they're so small. They're 750. I've seen them so small. And the parking is like a structure, which was like a separate wood carport or a separate garage that was right on the alley line. And they created the backyards, and they were nice. They had that comfortable community feel. Now, we can't have the modern living that we're requiring. That's why we're coming up with these 25-foot lots, unless we find a middle ground. That's my opinion on it. So,
Chip, any comments?
I apologize for you being insulted on that, but my comment on the very first rendering that you brought forth is that you are using absolutely every square inch of buildable space on these lots. You're taking a 100-foot lot and breaking it into 4 25-foot lots, whereas the city quite some time ago was getting away from the 25-foot lot and trying to require a minimum of 50-foot lots to build on. And you even mentioned it yourself, that you could take this 100-foot and traditionally make 2 50-foot lots and put nice houses on there with about the same square footage or even more. And as I'm looking at the depiction of the properties that are around you here, they're not all 25s. I see basically the 2-story on the corner is a 50. The house with the mansard roof is a 50. The blue house on the top, middle left is a 50. The 2-story blue one in the top center is a 50. You've got the one with a 33. You said it's a 33-foot lot, and that was closest to a 25-foot lot that I could find. I believe the only 25-foot lot I see is the bottom image of the green one. That looks to be a 25-foot lot to me, possibly the one on the lower right-hand corner. But all of these other houses that are in the same neighborhood as this one are on 50-foot lots. And the house that was on the lot that you purchased took up it was 100-foot by 135. And so when you looked at and Mr. Martin, alluded to the fact that the massing was just too huge on that. And then we haven't even brought up parking. okay, parking on these streets with all of these small lots, and especially when you're basically, you're basically showing a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, okay, 4 of them, nobody has 1 car, nobody has 2 cars. If you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, you might have kids. And as the kids grow up, they have lots. I live on a 50-foot lot, and when the kids were growing up, we had problems, everybody had to park in and move out and pull on the street. And we had, and that was with a 50-foot lot. So, I mean, very often at one point in time, we needed 4 cars on a 50-foot lot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. And it was, and you end up parking in front of your neighbors' houses and things like that. And you alluded also to having guests come by. Well, where do the guests park? Because you're using all of the available parking.
They walk down the street.
Exactly.
Go over.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
So what I heard, and then
He's meeting his parking requirements.
he is, but it is just barely, because like I said, you're using absolutely every square inch available to build on these lots. And it looks out of place. As mentioned before, and I will reiterate that these 750-foot cottages that you're trying to emulate on a 25-foot lot are generally 750 square foot, 800 square foot. They're 2-bedroom, 1-bath. They are truly cottages. These are basically houses that you're trying to shove onto on a 25-foot lot. And it's just utilizing way too much of the space. You don't have enough room for anything else, and it's going to be crowded. It's going to be crowded. With the look of 4, I mean, me personally, I don't care for it. And I believe that we've alluded to something where you're not supposed to have identical facades, and you've tried to address that.
Right.
They still look identical, they still look pretty identical. I mean, I understand you're trying to address that. My problem is just with the huge square footage that you're putting on 100 on what should be 250-foot lots. Okay, and that's my opinion. And it was taken, you did have the option to break it into 250-foot lots. However, you decided to do that. To
And I
25.
checked that this is a multifamily district, and this is 20 units an acre here, so the maximum density, if the lots were to stay the same on this, would be 6 units. So if they came back in with the townhome project, they could do up to 6 townhomes or 6 apartment buildings. So it's not a single family home. It's not a single family district. This is a multi-family district.
You can go 3 stories with a townhome with 2-car garage in the back.
And so that's a different, those are different configurations.
Huh?
So-
I can also make them 1 story. Like what we're saying, like we can essentially.
Correct.
Like we're following the code and we're trying to create something that's appealing. From the street, nobody's going to look at the front view.
Did you hear of any of the comments that we made before where they talked about staggering the fronts? Because that was one of the comments I remember being made to make it more appealing. It's just too much square footage, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes, 4 of them side by side on 25-foot lots. I just think it's overwhelming, the block. It's overwhelming that 100-foot section of the street. And I'm hoping you're hearing this.
I am. I think it's 100. It's very fast. Walk back there, you're probably not going to notice, just like in the block just now. Here I put a variety of images, but in fact, across the street from us, there are 3 25-foot lots. In front of the townhouses, just 1 block south, there's a good swath of little cottages, 5-foot lots.
But what are the square footages?
They're small, but we have to create a product that works for modern requirements. And in fact, I think you need a variety of types of homes. Somebody may not want a 2-story, 3-bedroom house. And this is a different option for them as well. I mean, this isn't 4 houses that are going to be easily found throughout the city, or it's a very niche product compared to your single family house. You could probably believe that a family of 4 is probably not going to live here likely with both kids and stuff. But the point is, we're trying to make a beautiful project. We're trying to make it better. We looked at having 4 different roof types, and we thought that it looked weird. It didn't look worse. I thought it would look worse. So we're going with something a little bit more cohesive. I will look into staggering the houses. I will on the interior plan as well. And from the street, you're not gonna see anything but the changes in volumes of the four houses. Nothing's gonna tell you that the house, goes down ever so long. And these small houses, we're adding to them all the time.
All right, well,
The opinions are taken into consideration. And we'll give it a shot next month, okay?
thank you very much.
Improving upon this
Thank-
project.
Thank you. Judith Fox, anything more? You're not here. Any
No,
additional?
I'm just, I'm agreeing with Chip that we're trying to put too much house in too little space. Once again, you got, if you want more, you gotta go up.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Adamazzi. We know you can do it. We don't take it back poorly.
No.
You did a great job on Lucente, you did a great job on the one,
Yeah, don't be offended. There's no intention of offending anybody.
just the Avara. Okay.
There's no intention of offending anybody.
I know,
So,
but
All right,
no.
Okay.
You're an artist.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate your time.
What's next? I see we have a departmental report.
Yeah, and actually, what's interesting is that, we had already notified you of the demolition. I just had forgotten that we had already done that, and that came in with a replacement ADU. So, the demolition permit came back through, and I wanted to make sure that you were notified.
Okay.
Alrighty. Are there other comments? We had something we were going to talk about briefly, or I can wait till next month. The technical issue of when the glazing is set back from the face of the wall.
Right, absolutely. So
Sure.
something to think about, and let us know what your consensus thoughts are, at the 2 inches, that's been standard.
Mhm.
Shift it.
Yeah.
Let's have a discussion, and we're happy to shift it. I think that the main idea is that the glazing is inset, because historically the wall and the window would not have been directly even.
Right.
And it provides a higher level look, or I'd say
It looks more like a punched opening.
Yes.
That was,
yes.
and it's especially necessary now because a lot of window manufacturers are using flanges so that the window is actually set against the wall, stapled in, and then the stucco or whatever goes over it, but it is right there at the face. We'll talk about that later. Any other thoughts? It's not even 8 o'clock.
I would like to, discuss this issue that's coming before us now with the 425-foot lots and the buildable area and everything else. Is that a code issue that can be taken care of when we, because, apparently I got shot down last month when I tried to bring out the fact that in our code, which I still, in my heart of hearts, believe that when they say a single 25-foot lot, a single parcel, that means if you have a 25-foot lot in the middle of the block, that you have to be able to build on it. So that is why they use the word when you have a single lot. So what this guy is, or what anybody could come up and say, I've got 4 single 25-foot lots. Well, no, it meant to be a single lot in the middle of the block so that you are not prohibited from building on a 25-foot lot. Okay, yes, you can build on a 25-foot lot. It is, what is the word I'm looking at?
So
It
it's
is
not anybody off the street who has a random lot.
No, what I'm saying is, what is the word I'm looking at? It is a
Non-conforming.
non-conforming lot.
Yes.
Okay, so here we made 4 non-conforming lots.
Well, I think this is where you're getting confused.
No, you
You're
did that
saying the
last
word
month.
I know.
Made. These are
Well-
not made lots. These are lots that
Right.
have existed.
They were existing.
Lots of record.
No, they're not
They
the
were
word,
platted,
they
they were
are.
platted lots.
They are platted.
They are platted
They are now
lots.
platted.
So now they are 4 single platted lots.
Yes.
I mean, they always
Since they
were.
were platted, they have existed as
Somebody put these 4 together.
equal platted lots of record. They
Right,
are
somebody put 4 together and made a 100-foot lot and built a house and a garage on it. And they lived there for 50 years until it was torn down. So now somebody is taking back the 100-foot single-family lot, and they're making it what they are allowed to. I get that. But I believe our code, when it came up with non-conforming lots, a 25-foot lot is by definition a non-conforming lot.
They didn't create a 100-foot lot,
So that's
but they combined 4 lots into one parcel under the property appraiser, which is a
Right.
completely different
No.
thing.
And I understand that, but are we trying, is the direction, okay, and he asked the question also, are we going towards smaller lots,
no.
higher density? I mean, I understand the higher density, that's why we're going up. But if we're going towards this thing where we want to see more 25-foot lots being built out on every square inch of buildable space, there's something inherently wrong with that.
So we're not. So there are existing areas in the city that have platted lots of record. There's no proposal or effort to make more 25-foot lots. If there was, that would be something that would have to go to city commission. It would have to be a whole subdivision. We would have to re-subdivide portions of
A lot of
the
the
city.
city.
I mean, that's a huge, to do that is a huge, massive policy direction, and then it's a lot of paperwork.
Mhm.
Okay, what you're talking about doing. What there is that there is a rule that says, except in these couple subdivisions, that people can build on the 25-foot lots. 25-foot lots are a way to have affordable housing or more affordable housing, not super affordable housing, but that's, if you have a smaller house on a smaller lot, you have a smaller land cost. So, that's another, this is the reason why in other jurisdictions, that 25-foot lot have again become more popular because people like the idea, and this is a market thing, they like the idea of, in the market, of having a almost single family home experience in the sense that it's like a functional 0 lot line. It basically functions as a 0 lot line home is what it does. So people, that is an appealing market house type right now because of the cost of housing in our region, and it's appealing in California, it's appealing, so people are looking at, and in California especially, they're looking at reducing lot sizes and experimenting with lot size reductions, like 25-foot lots, to increase housing stock in a way that is lower scale, in the sense that you don't get massive, you can increase kind of that
But
peanut
when,
butter and that.
And
but
of
when
course,
they do that, aren't they making those 0 lot lines? In other words, if you're breaking up a 50 to 225s, they're going to say, okay, well, look, you can do a 0 lot line so that you have a 6-foot yard on the side, as opposed, to the next house.
Okay, so 0 lot line, basically, it's 2 houses that are built, most 0 lot lines, the way they function, are about a 1.5 foot setback on one side and then have like a 4 to 5 foot setback on another side. That's typically what would happen. It depends on the local government regulations. It depends on how constrained or the pattern. And then a lot of those 0 lot lines come in a larger plan development. What we have is we have these infill pieces, and we have a handful of them where you have these other pieces that can be subdivided and constructed on. So really, this is not an issue so much that we're facing in the historic districts. I would say that's probably would be more of an issue that we would face outside the historic districts, because there's very few lots that can be broken up. So I think if it's a policy change that you're concerned for, and you don't like the lots and you think that they are not contributing their correct pattern or correct zoning, that's something that's a policy direction. And so that's.
I thought we were gonna have a meeting, planning and zoning, historical, yourselves, maybe
So we're
some
waiting for
commissioners.
direction from the city commission. There are several issues that they're going to provide direction on, and so they have established priorities. But I would say, you all are residents and citizens. If this is something that you're concerned about, definitely go talk to your city commissioner and go, ask them if they have a concern about this, and then we can talk about it.
well, this is good. Rick, I didn't know that there
It was
is,
proposed last time.
well, great, because
It was
there are
We
also
would try to get-
other major issues, including ADUs, including mews and alleys. There was a wonderful article that some of you may have read recently on the wonderful benefit that we have here of alleyways and the possibility of getting more housing on it. And great, we need to have.
Like what was mentioned just now, we have some input because it's in historical. But once you
Yeah.
leave historical,
Mhm.
You go to.
I mean, does all this,
Royal
does any of this
Oceana.
apply to historical? I mean,
Well,
can't
no,
we-
what I mean is that we have more of a say, correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong. If it looks like warehouses and the mass is too big, it does not compare to the historical character. We have more say in this than in a neighborhood like Royal Poinciana or Tropical Ridge, where they have 25-foot lots and they can amass these bunkers one after another, and sustainability is willing to bring it up, propose it, recommend it, and it'll get built. Is that the case?
So those are, so you're thinking of recommending and proposing, we don't recommend it, we don't recommend it propose for single family homes that are built on not existing lots, platted lots of record. What we do is, that's a building permit, that's a by right development.
Okay, so they have the right now, if they, let's suppose that these houses were not in this historical district, they were in Tropical Ridge or Royal Poinciana. They
To build the bunkers.
They could build those bunkers. I think
They could also just,
I think that's a big problem for the city, and we should meet all
yes,
the departments, because just because it's not in a historical district, that's not how we want the city to be. And fine, it's more for affordable housing, 25-foot lot. I don't have a problem with that. It's the look. You cannot amass something that was like 800 square feet in the 1920s and 30s. The modern living now requires nearly 1,500, 1,700 square feet, and put that same thing on that tiny little lot. It has to be on a pre-agreed somehow, just like we have in some zoning or something that, yes, you can build it, but it has to be 2 stories, and you have to have a front yard and a backyard, and it has to have 2 cars.
I think it just could be as simple as having some tweaks to the land development regulations. I mean, you could do something like 3-foot setbacks or whatever, but you have a minimum building separation of 10 feet or something like that, so that the buildings can be 3 feet if they're not beside another building, but they could be, if they're beside another building, then they have to have a separation or whatever. And there's different things I think that you can work with creatively. I think these lots, personally, I think these lots are valuable. And I think that they are a needed infill for the city, and that, there might be some things that we need to look at as far as making sure that there's not an exaggeration or like too much of a massing. But, I think that the way that the trends are going, that we do need this type of housing. I don't really, going on even more with the parking and stuff like that, I think that that's sort of assessing newer development with, past standards or whatever, because the parking and mobility and everything like that is changing on a daily basis, and it's evolving to a point where we have somebody in my group that was considering whether or not they want to stay on with our company because they didn't feel like this particular region was somewhere that they wanted to live. They wanted to live somewhere where there was mobility. They wanted to live somewhere there was like more of a downtown type situation. And that's not a judgmental thing. It's like they want to live in a situation where they didn't have to rely on a car so much. And they still felt that, like the South Florida region, for instance, still relies really heavily on car traffic, and that's sort of that's something that's popping up more and more with a lot of the demographics. So
Well, we are
not
enormously
to go off
lucky.
a bunch of different segues over it, but I think that we need to, we're in the historic district, we need to look at what the trends are that are coming down the line for housing, for neighborhood development and that type of thing.
We
I
are
think we have to keep the historic district historic.
Right, we do.
And then your
But we
point,
also have modern buildings that are
okay,
historic district as well, so.
both Mr. Pickett and Mr. Martin's comments better articulated sort of what I was getting at, is that we wanted to see if we can avoid having issues like this come up. Nobody wants to insult somebody, but because they bring up something that would actually go fine in Tropical Ridge, which is, in my opinion, should not be allowed in Tropical Ridge. They need some separation. In Tropical Ridge, they have some abhorrent designs that somehow were recently built. And, they're duplexes, I guess, and the apartments are on the side, and there's no windows or anything on the front. And they're 25-foot lots, and somebody approved that. And it's like somebody couldn't have gone and said, can you do something in the front, make it a little, something nicer for the neighborhood? All you're doing is perpetuating a slum situation over there. And that is something where the joint meeting between us and planning and zoning might
Help with a little continuity throughout the municipality.
just because you're not in historic doesn't mean you should put in garbage.
Well, if you meet code, you're
True.
you're.
What would happen in this particular case is there's a horizontal parking in the back of each house. You can rest assured that that garden that was left there for grass and greenery will become a parking lot and just mud. That's what's going to happen. You could see it happen already, and
All right.
I think have a 25-foot lots are the direction.
So the 25-foot lots are not the direction.
No,
They are an existing platted lot of record.
There's many of them.
Existing development pattern. They're not all over, the whole city is not 25-foot
just the
lots.
core.
They're just in the core around the downtown.
And
That's
if
it.
you have a single non-conforming 25-foot lot, you are definitely allowed to build on it
Yes.
to our.
Right,
square
there's
foot
not
restriction.
many of those outside of the core.
Right.
Because the original platted lots of record were in the core. So we have a downtown condition, then streets feeding into the downtown with smaller lots of record. It's not an atypical development pattern of historic communities that were platted at the time, and it feeds and it does allow. So I think that some of your issues are sound, and we can definitely bring it back. But when that comes back and when you have a joint meeting, we're probably going to need a little bit to be frank. Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all look forward to that meeting.
Yeah.
That said,
So we'll get there.
okay, meeting is now adjourned.
So thank you.
Thank you.